Dit is Makkinga Meets, een podcast van de NTR en NPO Soul & Jazz. In deze podcast spreek ik met de mensen die ons leren, inspireren en motiveren door middel van muziek en cultuur. We vieren hun artistry en we linken het heden aan het verleden door diepgaande gesprekken. Mijn naam is Andrew Makkinga. Welkom. My guest for today's show is a brother from Uganda, just like me. But unlike me, he can call himself a singer, an extraordinary singer, a musician, an actor, a humanitarian, and an entrepreneur. He's even successfully created his own genre called Mwoyo. Having recorded his recently released album, The Road To Kirya, in the Netherlands, I am very curious to not only hear about his journey of blending Ugandan folk music with jazz and R&B, but also in his journey as an all-round creative. What was it like to move to Holland? How did you end up over here? It's cold. What was it like recording with Dutch musicians? How does acting in Netflix original movies like The Girl in the Yellow Jumper contribute to his overall mission? So many questions. And of course, how much does he love our beloved Uganda? This and so much more is what I look forward to learning about together with him. Ladies and gentlemen, I am excited to introduce to you the one and only Maurice Kirya. Oliochia Sebo, how you doing, brother? Huh?
I'm very good, thank you. Thank you for having me, Andrew.
It's an honor. My heart glows that the universe has brought us together. Here you have somebody born in Uganda, raised in the West, the lost son. You know, when you go back to the village, that's what grandma says, where are you? And I run into a brother in Rotterdam who is not only a superstar in our country, but made a brilliant album with local Dutch musicians. Maurice, I'm so happy to have you on the show. How are you?
I feel great. First of all, I just want to say thank you for having me. This is really awesome.
Tell me, I mean, let's just get it right into it. You're in Uganda now, because you're back. Your album has just been released.
True.
Any first receptions?
Oh, wow. It's a really good reception. It's my 6th album, and I'm so happy that people are receiving it so positively. And I'm back here to promote it, as I will go to different countries trying to promote the music. Yes.
Yeah. And The Road to Kirya, released in May. What is this road? Where does this road lead to? What is this album about?
You know, when I recorded this album, Andrew, it was during a very tough time, the pandemic, as we all thought the world was coming to an end. And I wondered, you know what, if I was to go, and let's say I didn't survive Corona, what would I want to leave behind? What would be the legacy that I leave? Would it be through music? And through music, how can I leave something that's beyond me? So I wanted to write a song, an album that would make people feel positive, that would be much deeper than just enjoyment. And so I started working on it. And The Road to Kirya doesn't only tell a story of who I am and where I want to go as an artist and as a person, but it's also a very, very common Ugandan story of Ugandans trying to make it to a global stage. And I think me being out there performing, I don't feel like I'm alone. I feel like I am together with all the other artists who are back in my country who are trying to promote their music and get it out to the whole world to get to know it.
Yeah, it's also a record that isn't fully in English.
No.
There's Luganda on there. And it seems to me like you're introducing this genre that is known in Uganda, the Mwoyo music, to us.
Yes. Yeah.
Is that what you set out to do?
Yeah, exactly. Because when I started doing Mwoyo, it was a lot of experimentation many years ago. And in 2008, when I finally worked on the album, people started to see what I was trying to do. And today, there's so many artists that have carried the genre, and they're killing it. They sound amazing. And the reason I say this is because me going out there, let's say I'm in the Netherlands or Germany or wherever, introducing people to this sound, there's so many artists that I want the world to get to know about, artists in my country who I think people would absolutely love. So I feel like it's a responsibility that I have to really sing in my language as well, to introduce our folk and, you know, give it to the world.
An ambassador to Uganda, beyond, in the diaspora and beyond. Let's just sit in this and do some musical anthropology and history. So, what is the origin of Moyo music? Like, because this is a phrase that comes from you as a musician, but
Exactly.
explain us the context of where this comes from.
Growing up, we listened a lot, of course, to the traditional Ugandan music, which had vocal intonations that we would call egono, which is a certain way of using the voice. And of course, it had the traditional Ugandan music patterns, drum patterns. And then on top of that, we had a lot of jazz back in the day, and it was Afro jazz done by bands such as a Frigo band, which I grew up listening to this. But on top of that, we received a lot of soul music, the Stevie Wonders, the pop from Michael Jackson, and not so much the blues, but a lot of soul and jazz. Afro jazz was lingering around Uganda for many, many years. So I'm from that era, and I wanted to mix our folk sound, our traditional sound, and blend it with soul, R&B, and jazz. And it's been a lot of albums to really define it, and I think it's going in the right direction.
Yeah. So this started about 2007, 8, that time.
My first song, the first time that I released a song, I was a baby, and I say baby because this was like 2001. So there's been a lot of try and error of what I've released and written in the past. Some of the songs I try to hide them so no one ever gets to hear them.
But that's okay. We'll keep on digging. But Moyo was like around that time. You were confident enough. Was it somebody who gave that name to what you?
Actually, I've never really credited this gentleman. I kept trying to explain Moyo, and it kept passing by when people would ask me, "What is this sound you're trying to create?" And I think I said it so many times, and I would express myself as Moyo, which means soul. You know, in Swahili, Moyo means heart, but in Uganda, Moyo means soul. And I kept trying to say I wanted to create Ugandan soul music. And then it just stuck. All the band members and the people or the radio stations, they would say that's what I called it. So on the album, we wrote something at the end. He calls his style Moyo. And it stuck, and people felt like it actually was a representation of what I was trying to do.
That's so beautiful that these Bantu languages and the Swahili,
Yeah.
they have the same building blocks, but then it's heart and soul. Because we could even say that the heart is maybe the soul.
Exactly.
Like,
the soul is heart.
The soul
It's
is
quite
heart.
debatable.
It's. I mean, that's so beautiful. I just. You mentioned some of the music, Frigo.
A Frigo
what was
band,
like,
yeah.
Yeah, tell me about that. And what else did you listen that was African when you were a kid?
Yeah, so my father listened to a lot of rumba music, a lot of Pepe Kale, Kanda Bongo Man.
Pepe Kale,
you
yeah.
know. Franco, a lot of that played in the house. But my mother was on the other side of things. She listened more to the Western music, and so we listened to a lot of a bit of jazz, but more pop. You know, so she gave that difference for me. And then my brothers growing up, they were into hip hop. So me being the youngest at that time who was doing music, I had all these genres just being thrown around the house. So it gave me an advantage that I had enough time to really fuse all these things together.
And is it true that one of your brothers was actually very influential in the Ugandan hip-hop scene?
Oh, yes. His name is Alex Kirya, but famously known as Saba Saba. He started the whole hip-hop movement in the 90s, and then started a group which is still iconic to date called Bataka Underground.
My God. So there's a lot of history just running through your veins.
Yeah, and it's so funny
and could we say that...
Sorry, I cut you short. My other brother, who I'm born after, he's a very, very famous dancehall artist called Vampino. And then at the same time, my mother was singing in the choir at that time, so there was always a chance to just be around music. My grandfather was writing music and playing piano and accordion. So I guess I've had the opportunity to just tap into all that they were doing.
And so I'm trying to close my eyes and see these young men walking around the compound, the house, listening to all these other influences. Then there's the African-American influence. But obviously there's the traditional Ugandan music. Mm-hmm. Where are you from in Uganda? Maybe for the listeners, Uganda is 6 times bigger than the Netherlands, mm-hmm. which is a small country in Europe and in the world. But It's not like in Uganda everybody lives in the same area. So just
Yeah.
and what musical influences did you get from the traditional side?
Yeah, first of all, I'd begin by saying Uganda has over 40 tribes, 40 tribes, each with a different dialect. And they've got the kings and all, well, not all of them have kings, but there's the tribes. And they all have different musical influences and styles, which we all have had to learn in school, because when you perform, you get to learn the different cultures and the languages. Me growing up in a convent school, which took arts very seriously, I got to have the ear for so many different cultures in the country. But my father is originally from the eastern side of Uganda, and my mother is from the west. Totally different kind of music and cultures.
Opposites.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then Luganda being the main language that's spoken right after English in the country, I studied Luganda literature, so it allowed me to really tap into what was going on culturally, musically, traditionally in the country.
So you got all those influences from the east, but also from the west. Like, did you listen to music in your mother's dialect,
Oh, yes.
or?
Oh, yes. You see, when you go to school here, there's always music curriculums and competitions, and they usually have all the different traditions, and that helped.
So Moyo is actually an evolution of all these sounds that were around you from you being a younger man.
Indeed. I would speak for many other people as well, because we've shared the same kind of story as Ugandans who love music.
And this we can all find this on this new record called The Road to Kirya. And should we play a bit of Entebbe?
Oh, yes, thank you.
Siba sibensawo muzinyweze ngenda Entebeyo mu ndege ngenda kupaka sensimbi nzirete nera mbasabe mikisejo mujimpe ya tuja kutuka ngenda naye buli jemba mbera mbalozako buli wemba mbera sijukire ebiseera mwe twava embeera yali nkalu naye kati baaba nedda bija kukyuka.
So we were just listening to the opening track of your album, Entebbe, in Luganda. You explained that's the main language in Uganda. We could do a whole podcast about the history of Uganda and all the tribes. Maybe I should tap on your shoulder and ask you if you have time for that in the future. But I want to stick to the record now,
Yeah.
because there's so much in this record that I want to address and discuss. What is this song about, Entebbe?
Entebbe, in our country, when you say Entebbe, it could mean three things. The first thing would be the airport. Everybody knows the airport is called Entebbe Airport. But the literal meaning of Entebbe means a chair, and which metaphorically, Entebbe could also be a throne. And in this song, I'm trying to give the usual idea when you mention Entebbe in my country. It's like a journey to something that carries a lot of hope. People trying to travel, abroad, whether it's for greener pastures, whether it's for school, whether it's for medication, whether it's for work. It's always attached to something positive. And I wanted to give, metaphorically, the feeling that we all get trying to blossom outside of our home.
On this tune.
Only,
like-
yeah. It's kind of weird that we're trying to blossom out there, but we really believe that we're doing it for the people back home in our country. And that's a whole nother story. We could dig so deep into what that means if you've had the stories of so many people that go in the diaspora to make it.
Yeah, but tell me about that. Why is that? Why is the urge to leave?
Sadly, it's the reality, because I in a song that I released a song called Echoes, where I say that we want to leave our country, yet so many people that are not from our country are coming to our country. So they see something that we don't. And they actually do prosper when they come to our country. So we don't seem to appreciate what we have. And those that could appreciate it and give us the power to blossom in it, perhaps don't give us the resources that we need. So everybody keeps running. And it's kind of a shame to see that we have doctors and amazing professionals just not in our country. They're just in other countries.
Yeah, the brain drain is crazy.
Indeed.
And if you look on the bright side, you can see that there is a movement that's been going on for quite some time, obviously standing on the shoulders of giants and ancestors that we call giants, that you see that people more and more are believing in themselves and in their own country, and see that that there's a lot of challenges in the West and a lot of challenges out there beyond Entebbe, and you not necessarily find happiness. A lot of people like me also living in the diaspora miss home a lot. Wonder what have we missed living here all our lives. Entebbe was also the seat of the colonial power. Indeed. Actually back in the day. So it had that name carries a lot of history as well.
Yeah, and indeed, and that's why I never really give a black and white meaning of Entebbe, because the way I write my songs, I want them to have different meanings to appeal to different kind of people. So first, some people will attribute it to the airport, other people will think of just a chair, and other people will think of the throne. And you got it. You actually caught that one, so that's pretty cool.
You are...
You're pretty cool with that.
Maurice is testing me here. Now, after you take the plane and it's a Entebbe Kigali, and then that's another crazy thing. Why the F do all the flights go through Amsterdam? Like, can we discuss that? Isn't there okay? So, but no, let's not do that. That will be a rabbit hole.
I can try. I can be safe with it. I'd like to imagine that the trips are so long and they have to refuel. This is the safe thing to say right now.
I think that's the safe thing. Let's just say it's about fuel.
It's about fuel.
That's why we're very happy that there's a direct flight from Kenya to New York since lately, 1 or 2 years. Revolutionary history. This is Maurice and Andrew talking between the lines. In the meantime, speaking about your album, which is a brilliant album, recorded with Dutch musicians. Now, you recorded it in Holland. Before we get to the record itself, why did you end up in Holland? What happened?
So in 2018, I had a daughter on the way, and my ex-girlfriend, my girlfriend at the time, was due to give birth, and she opted for us to have our daughter born in the Netherlands, and that was my first trip.
So she's Dutch?
She is Dutch, fully.
Fell in love, got a girlfriend in the Netherlands.
In Uganda. We met in Uganda, and
you met in Uganda.
One thing led to another, and we had...
Oh my God.
You know how that goes. And I had to move to the Netherlands.
Love was in the air. So, but then, okay, obviously, getting a child, moving out, and then there's this point where you choose to stay here and record a record. Tell me, when did that pop up?
So when I was coming back and forth, living between Uganda and the Netherlands, at some point, my daughter was growing and I needed to be available as much as possible. So I decided, you know what, it looks like this is where it's at. And of course, the pandemic happened and the world just turned to absolute mess. And while I was there, I needed my sanity. I needed to do something that meant a lot, not only to me, but other people, something that was my calling. And I decided, you know what, here right now, during the toughest time of my life, which just so happened to be the time where my relationship was on the rocks, which indeed it kind of ended. It did end. And it was the perfect time to really pour my emotions into an album.
How did it feel when you were sitting in Nederland with boerenkool and patat and a lot of rain and you're beyond the so-called politeness, you don't speak the language yet, and you're asking yourself, why the F did I take the flight from Entebbe? I'm here, my relationship is over. How did you feel?
It was really tough because you feel all alone. You're trying to catch on with the language. You're trying to catch on with the systems of the country. You're really trying to integrate yourself into a system, and it just happens to be the worst time in the world to try to integrate into any system with the pandemic and everything. It was really tough, but I think my daughter was always something that I had to look up to and just stay strong and reinvent myself.
Yeah. So you get on this train ride where you want to record an album in the Netherlands during a pandemic with a breakup and a baby.
Without money.
And then without money.
Yeah, imagine this. You're feeling homeless in the Netherlands and you're feeling homeless back home in your country. and you have a daughter, you can speak the language. You are learning the language on a phone. Ik heb een app, Duolingo. Ik gebruik een app, Duolingo. And I learned all this stuff in just 1 year because I was desperate. I was like, ik moet praten Nederlands, you know? And then I'm like, I'm going to have to start a company because I'm kind of entrepreneur. I'm like, I'm going to figure out how to start a company. So I was like sleeping on a friend's couch during the pandemic, trying to work on an album, learning a language, sort of homeless. You know, this kind of weird thing. You're like, it's the worst time. You're this superstar from Africa, and now you're just out there trying to make things work.
Was there a moment where you were like, because did you even tell people back home how tough it was?
No, I couldn't, because back home you are their star. They look up to you. You're the guy that they count on to, you know, to get it together, which I think I've done a good job pretending.
Well, stop, brother. You did not. Maybe you pretended in the beginning, but this is also something that a lot of people who move out do.
Yeah.
Many stay in Europe or in the West for years,
Yeah.
sending pictures of houses they don't even have.
Oh,
Brother, you turned the
tough.
situation around.
I was standing up at places, you know, promoting my music, trying to record, doing shows, putting a band together with one of the greatest musicians in the Netherlands, and I was just doing all this while staying on someone's couch, you know, just putting things together.
Let's talk about this band. So who's in the band, and how did you get the musicians together? I want to know.
When I got there, I met somebody called Tasha, who works with House of Knowledge, and I just...
Natasha Slachtant, yeah,
Exactly.
Tasha's World. She's one of the legends. You know, she was and is a pioneer in soul and R&B music, and has helped countless young people, older people get into the business and stay in the business and stay sane in the business. So you met Tasha.
I met Tasha, and I just saw online. I went, found the address. I knocked on the door. She opens. I'm like, I'm looking for House of Knowledge. She's like, it's me. She's like, what do you want? I was like, I don't know, but I'm here. And she's like, okay, come inside. So I came inside, and we started just talking about life. And before I knew it, she connected me to so many people. I met Sharma Rouse. I got in touch with, for some reason, Netherlands artists, Dutch artists have really embraced me so easily. As soon as they saw me, they were like, there's this guy, he's just positive, he's just hardworking, and they just welcomed me. Almost everybody that I met. Yeah.
So after meeting Sharma Rouse and getting this tour, you get to your band members, the guys you actually record with. Who are they? And
so when I started working, I just went around different shows and meeting musicians and introducing myself, telling them I want to do an album and I would like to have them play with me. And when they listened to the demos that I had, they were like, okay, this is interesting. And they came on board, and that's how I got Simone Cesarini, Jens Dreyer, Willem van der Krabbe, the guys at A60, Julian Born. It just went crazy like that. I've just been very fortunate with the musicians in the Netherlands and how well they've embraced me.
And how was it like to work with them the first time? You guys get together?
So what I would do, I would call everybody, then send them what I've produced at the house. I said, this is how I want the music to move, but give me your idea on approach to this style. And then we would then meet at the studio and start playing and start recording. And then later we'd just be drinking and going back and playing and recording.
But just let's take one step back. First of all, you know your own music, so you arrange your music, you produce it, you play things the way you want. So, and you know what you want.
Mm-hmm.
But then at the same time, there's this. It's like a relationship. It's like dancing the tango. You have to get to know these guys. So language is there, but maybe language is not necessary. Like, how did you guys meet? Western music has different tonality. How did you get it right? And were there any obstacles? Tell me.
So mostly I would have long conversations on the phone to explain to them where I'm coming from, my influences on music, what I'm trying to achieve. I explained to them especially the studio, I would tell them what sounds how in my language, how we perceive melodies and everything. And I would just keep having these conversations, and every time we recorded, I would focus on one person at a time. If we were dealing with a pianist, we'd just do that. If it's a drum, we'd just have like a relationship for like 2 weeks, 3 weeks. And like, for example, when we worked with Willem van der Krabbe, we'd just be talking about patterns, and we'd just keep messing with these ideas until we'd record them, and that's how it happened with everyone.
So you would just be talking to Willem for weeks on about drum patterns.
Yo, they go, and you see, the thing is, I can't drum, so I would just be calling and beatboxing, boom, 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 you know.
Lovely, brother. So you would just be beatboxing
Yeah.
to Willem?
I would just be beatboxing to all of them, then playing the best lines, and then eventually they'll play different patterns. For example, the song Sejiga had a totally different vibe, and then when we turned up and to record it, something snapped in my mind. And Willem played something, and I jumped out of my seat. I say, "What is that you just played?" He's like, "What?" It's like, no, just play it again." And when he played it, everybody was like, oh. And then they all just jumped on it, and we started recording it, and the whole song changed in exactly 10 minutes because a mistake was made, and because I could not create it in my head, but I knew it existed, and he played it. I jumped out because I had it from outside the studio booth. I was like, "What was that you were messing with?" Played, and then we built onto that, and then Sejiga pattern was changed.
So that wasn't a mistake.
It wasn't.
Shall we play Sejiga? Let's play a bit of Sejiga.
Thank you.
omubiri gwona kabugumu kewalina bwe wajjako akateete akakiragala okuzuukuka n'endaba ebbaluwa wandekera Sejiga n'ogenda ofisanga ku kadde n'onkyalira ofisanga ku kadde n'onkyalira ofisanga ku kadde n'onkyalira ofisanga ku kadde n'onkyalira.
This is fantastic. I love this song, but let's just get back to this, because you're actually saying it wasn't you who only, you didn't dictate what should happen. It was actually a sort of interaction, co-creation.
Exactly.
There were moments where, as a result of what you gave them, they gave you something back.
Exactly.
And that led to, what is this song about? Tell me the story behind Sejiga.
Sejiga in my country, if you say senyiga, it means a cold, to have a stuffy nose. But if you have a stuffy nose, you can't say senyiga. The word's going to come out as Sejiga. Because you can't really breathe. And that was the first humorous part of it. And I wrote this song during a pandemic. It's this guy who had a wonderful night with this lovely lady. Everything just seemed so perfect, only for him to wake up and she's left a note behind thanking him for a wonderful night. But he's so attached to the feeling he had, and he's wondering if she'll ever call him again, because it was too good to be true, and all she left behind was him with a stuffy nose. She only left him with a cold. You get it now? You get it?
Oh, there's layers to this cake, brother. There's layers to this cake.
Yeah, man.
Sejiga, because the stuffy nose. Yeah, you are bad with us, man. So I'm not gonna ask about I just want people to listen to this song and then fill in the blanks for themselves. And if you've ever been left with a stuffy nose, you better listen to this song, huh?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm trying to think about being left with a cold, struggling through this pandemic, the breakup. What did you learn from your brothers in music recording this record in that difficult time? Because you grow as an artist, and obviously this is your first record, not outside of Uganda, but full album outside of Uganda, yeah?
Yeah, it's my 6th record, The Road To Kirya. And I think there's always traces of what my brothers influenced me in, especially with hip-hop and dancehall. Somehow it sneaks in, because they used to use me as their king dancer. I make jokes that I was a queen dancer too. And so if you listen to songs like My Woman on the album, you can hear that dancehall urban vibe. She's that gorgeous body bag. All time round, she muttered that. You know, you hear the influence that I had with the hip hop and the quick jazz and the dancehall. So in a way,
Shall we play that song?
yeah, I'd love that.
So in a way, you were saying, in a way,
I still, when I do my music, whether it's going jazzy or just moyo, there's still a lingering dancehall hip hop effect that my brothers kind of, you know, pushed onto me because I was in their shadow for the longest time. So I just went wherever they did, sang whatever they did when I was like a teenager. So I'm forever grateful for that.
and we can hear that influence in My Woman. Let's play a bit of that.
I'm hacking, she tell me that. I tell her that she's my queen forever and if ever I don't have things so figured out. I figured that me and my queen will figure out and level up. I'm hacking, she tell me that. I tell her that she's my queen forever and if ever I don't have things so figured out. I figure that me and my queen will figure out and level up. Waiting and waiting and waiting again, hoping and hoping to see her again, dreaming and dreaming of her pretty face, cause my woman is all I need. I wanna see my baby girl, my woman. I am missing her like crazy. I am missing her like crazy. My baby girl, my woman.
It's the first track that's fully in English.
Yes, and not fully in English actually. There is the intro and the outro and the bridge have Luganda where it says "Wo bango situlon situlanga." Yeah, that's in Luganda.
So there is actually no track on the record that's
Fully English?
Fully in
Oh,
English.
they are. There is Only God. It's fully in English. Name Dropping is fully in English. There is quite a couple of songs that are actually fully in English.
So tell me, let's say about the language wise, the discussions you had in finding the balance on this record, because I think it's safe to say recording a record fully in English is easier to market, even though Africa has now 1.5 billion people, and in 2050 there'll be another billion extra, so there'll be a huge African market. What was in your mind when it came to the balance of Luganda and English on this record?
When I was growing up, we listened to a lot of music from artists in Africa that we had no idea what they were talking about. But the music was so good, you could feel their soul. You could feel the pain or the joy. And as I grow older, I start to understand how deep and powerful that is for an artist to really speak their truth, sing their truth. And as much as I do think I think I speak, my English is okay, but also in my language, I can express myself better in a way that I don't have to struggle that hard. And of course, if a translation is given, people can dig deeper into the depth of the music and the poetry and the lyrics.
Yeah. Where do you think this is heading? Because I also believe that, like, if you listen to Fela, we couldn't understand what Fela was saying, because Nigeria is 60 odd million people, but most of the other Africans can't understand what he's saying still, and people in the world still, they resonated to his music. Do you think that we will be moving to a popular music industry with more African languages in it?
If I can speak for Uganda, because it's a market I understand so well, yes, I do believe in Moyo and whatever is going to come from our country, that we are on the way to establishing a very iconic genre that will stick, that will set us apart from all the other genres. So most of my heroes, let's say from South Africa, Nigeria, they've all stood out and have had an authentic sound, which I believe is what we're doing. And it's just a matter of time that the world catches on with it.
Yeah. And My Woman is obviously a nice playful tune, because maybe a bit background of the song, you said your brothers influenced you a bit with their styles and vibrations they sent to you as a younger man growing up.
Yeah. Growing up, I'm still young, I would say. I still have
A younger, I said.
So I still got that.
He has no gray hairs, ladies and gentlemen.
No.
He's young and fresh, but tell me about this song.
So I still have that urban vibe, because I'm still very, I still got that street cred, I would like to think. So, so I do enjoy going in that direction and just go a little rough with the drums, with the bass, and cut out the melodic instruments and just go boom ba ba boom 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 bum, 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 and just flow to that. So my woman brings out that street side of who I am, especially when I'm back home and I'm just jamming with the bands in the streets of Kampala.
Yeah, because people need to know they should get a ticket and come to Uganda, because stage shows and just dancing and music, it's another.
It's intense.
I even dare to say that the Jamaicans would have a hard time when it comes to you partying if it's a Jamaica-Uganda clash. What do you think?
The city never sleeps. It's not just the music. The culture is so big. It's so wide. Like I just said, we have 40 languages, 40 tribes, and I mean more. So you can imagine just how much of a cocktail of culture shock it can be for anyone from anywhere in the world. This is a place to be, yo.
Amen. Brother Maurice Kirya is in the building via a digital link. You're back home released your album. You're celebrating the record, but we're also talking about what inspired you. And when I asked you to think about some music that inspired you, you came up with Stevie Wonder. Let's play a bit of "Love Is in Need of Love." Now, why did you choose Stevie Wonder?
When I used to sing in a gospel group called Evolution when I was a teenager, maybe 16, and I was introduced to a lot of Stevie Wonder and all these beautiful, legendary soul artists. Stevie really impressed me with the songwriting, and I wanted to write as good as he could. I wanted to learn his art of expressing himself so simply, yet still sophisticated, but simple to understand. And he's one of the artists that have really emulated my writing style too.
And what did you learn from him then?
I learned that if you're writing a song, it's like meeting somebody. Introduce yourself, explain to them what the conflict of the situation is and what you think the resolution or solution to resolve it would be. And when I'm writing my songs, however complex the topic is, I'm thinking of how relatable can my words be? How can I cut through to your mind and your heart without having you lost? And I learned that from Stevie. If you listen to a song by Stevie called Magic, every line in there is a punchline, and it's so simple, you're like, I could have thought about that, but why have I never thought about that? And that's what I love about that.
I love how you break this down, man. And I'm trying to figure out, like, you also enjoyed Boys to Men, so you were listening to like a lot of this. Tell me more about that. I mean, Boys to Men, the haircuts, the videos. I mean, this is so. Maurice is a younger man. We're 90s now, in the 90s.
Yeah.
So hit me up with some of this.
When I was in the gospel group back in the day, anyone that was in a gospel group was trying to learn some Boys to Men song. They were killing it. So you had to know a couple of Tech Six songs or Boys to Men. And we all wanted to sing like Wanya Morris or Sean Stockman. And Boys to Men managed to play between secular music and gospel. So it gave me a chance to really learn how to use my voice. And those were the songs that we were using, trying to see how far we could take it.
And if I'm honest, if I remember Uganda in the 90s, and you said you went to a convent school, which was very open to music and all types of music, I also remember Uganda back then, maybe now a little less, but Christianity is quite a force. I think that's an understatement. So to make secular wish you guys could see his face, to make secular music, let alone slackness that's okay, now it's okay. A lot of people, I'm not sure if it's okay. A lot of people accept it more. But how was that for you? Just as a young man growing up, finding your own style in a country where there was not necessarily a lot of room for secular music or like maybe even the hip hop your brother made as a pioneer. Could you elaborate on that?
Yeah, when I was in the gospel group, my father is born Catholic, and so we had that background, and my mother was a Protestant, so I had that background.
Oh.
And then I was singing in a born again Christian church, so I had that background. So I had all these cultures just pouncing on me. So there was a lot to learn from all these different cultures, and then. Going into as a gospel group, I was partly singing in a gospel group in the day, and in the night I was singing in the clubs because my brothers were taking me to the clubs to sing.
Yeah.
So that allowed me to be a young guy. I remember when I started, I was the only young guy who was going around playing live music. Live music was regarded for older guys who some people would even think they were boring. So going through the convent schools, the born-again Christian church, the Protestant church, then playing in the clubs all in the same time, it allowed me to really be out there and learn my way through the streets and through the what you'd call a more conservative approach to arts.
Yeah, and that made you the star you are. Were there ever moments where you felt alone? In the sense, like, I could see you making your music. You said I hit a bit of my first music, but I could see not everybody fully understanding how far ahead you were when you first released your tunes. Like, it takes a lot of courage.
Yeah, I remember when I stopped. I was very frustrated. I think the year was 2006 or 7. And I didn't want to sing anymore. And I met this gentleman called Jonathan Subga, who was an architect. And I told him I'm struggling because what I want to do is not what people want. He's like, what do you want to do? So I explained to him. So he said, I'm going to pay your rent and I'm going to give you money for some time so you can go home and write the music, create the style you want. I've never told this to anybody.
Wow.
He gave me the money for the rent and said, go. Come back with what you want. And that's when I worked on Moyo for a year, then worked on the next year for the album and came back. And I remember there was an article, I will send it to you. It said, waiting for Maurice Kirya to step out of his shadow, because this journalist called Phoebe Mutesi was like, this guy has something powerful. Where is he? He couldn't have just disappeared. But I was in a cave trying to create this. And when I came out, Moyo was born out of frustration that there is more that we can give. There is something that's authentic and I just have to learn it, find it. And that's when I wrote the song Misubawa, which is still one of my biggest songs to date.
And always not compromising. And I think you said something about that, liking Stevie Wonder for not compromising on lengths of songs.
Yeah.
Or you took that same road. You did what you wanted to do in that period.
Yeah, I felt like a song needed to say what it needed to say, and it's done when it's done.
And then did you ever look back and like where you came from, which I think is safe to say you didn't come from a rich background?
Not at all.
It was tough growing up.
Yeah.
How tough was it?
It was really tough because the time that I was making this music, right before the time of the album, we were staying in a house that literally had no windows. If you check my Instagram account, I always leave the picture of the house we were living in at the bottom. And I'm talking about, we were so broke that we sealed the windows with wood and we carried the door to put it there. And this is where these boys were coming and just taking the streets by storm. People didn't even know that's how we were living. I remember one time we had half a roof because the rain came and blew it off. And this gentleman called Haj Haruna, he donated our first electricity for a long time and said, hey, here's electricity, please have some light, and here's money for a roof. And we put a roof. And while all this was going on, when we were in town, you could never know. You could never know that these guys probably have one meal a day and they don't even have windows. But when we were out there, we were like standing tall and just killing it. We left it on the stage. It's still the attitude I have today. And yeah, background wasn't easy. And we just never let it get in the way. We just believed that if you do the best you can in your art, it will speak for you.
And you still do.
I still do.
Even in the period when you were homeless or not moving around, nobody could see here in the Netherlands that there was even a sprinkle of
Nah.
of despair on you. And I think that's a Ugandan thing, because if
Yeah.
I go back to Uganda, you can be in the village, and I still don't know how they do it. You'll see Grandpa come out with the cleanest, whitest shirt, and suddenly he'll be coming out of a small, like, I'm like, how, Jesus.
I think.
Do you think that
yeah,
was...
the resilience?
Yeah, go ahead.
I think that there's a lot of issues in my country and a lot of good things in my country, you know? And I think what other people would see as major problems, I guess somehow Ugandans look beyond that. They're like, things could be a lot worse. And we come out smiling with a white shirt. You know,
Yeah.
I think so.
And at the same time, I think part of us growing up is also being honest about hardships,
Yeah.
and not laughing them away, not hiding them. And I think that's what you've been doing on this record, and you've been inspired by others like Stevie Wonder, but also Donny Hathaway. A Song for You was a tune that you wanted to play. Shall we play a bit of that?
Most def.
I love you in a place where there's no space or time. I love you for my life. You're a friend of mine. And when my life is over, remember when we were together. We were alone and I was singing this song to you. We were alone and I was singing this song to you. We were alone and I was singing this song. Singing this song to you.
How did Donny Hathaway influence you as a singer? Or maybe as a person as well?
Donny Hathaway for me was the what you would call a voice of the soul, if a soul could speak. Yes, he was a good writer, but when he sang, you felt every single emotion. And he wasn't exactly trying to show that he's got the vocal prowess. No, he was just trying to communicate through his voice. And especially if you listen to songs like Young, Gifted and Black, it just gives you that, you know? So I learned that from him.
You might not be you might not look at yourself see yourself as an instrumentalist, but you are a multi-talent. So are you a singer first, or are you a actor first? Because there's I'm trying to catch up with all the things you do. Are you musician and actor before entrepreneur? Elaborate on that.
I'm a singer-songwriter before I am an actor, and then I'm an actor and then entrepreneur. Yeah.
Yeah. Can we talk about that? Because all the documentaries you were in 2006, you were in The Last King of Scotland alongside Forrest Whitaker, which is a smash movie. You've been in Queen of Katwe, Disney production. Out there, go look for it. Most recently, you're in the Netflix original movie Girl in the Yellow Jumper. When did this acting start?
The acting, I always wanted to be an actor because we love the heroes and all the actors from back in the day. And music was just something we always had. So we never even really realized how big we were on music because it's just something that happened every day in the house. But the acting, we wanted to be on screen and be superheroes, saving the world on the screen. And in 2007, I think, or 6, I was approached by the Ghetto Film School of New York, which was funded by J.P. Morgan, and I was cast to play the lead role of Joseph in a short film called Live Joseph. And that's when it hit me on how happy it made me feel, on how it gave me a chance to say something, and I could say it out of who I am, but just be somebody else and just communicate something. I enjoyed the power that it had, and I knew right there and then I wanted to be an actor.
Yeah. And like what would the next movie be that you want to play in?
Yeah, man.
I'm trying to find out how you pick your movies.
You know,
Let's throw it out there,
let's throw
man.
it out there.
mean,
I want to be in a Marvel. I want to
somebody-
be in a Marvel movie or something. You know?
Yeah?
And I'll tell you why. Obviously, it's Marvel, but also it would be a Ugandan's dream. You know, like we've seen all these heroes. I'd be so glad to just play. I don't care if I'm a villain. I just need to be in. Yo, I'm gonna eat their heads off.
So whoever's at Marvel, I'm sending this into the universe.
Yeah, we're
for my brother
manifesting
Maurice
this.
Kirya to be in. Wakanda could also do. It's. I mean, the second one is coming up this end of this year, but you'll be in the number 3.
I'll be in the number
But
3.
to stick with the acting, like Last King of Scotland, it made me think about being a Ugandan in Europe. It doesn't matter where we go.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know how that's for you, but if I say I'm from Uganda, oh, Idi Amin, oh, the child soldiers, oh, and we were speaking about how, we all come from tough backgrounds. It's not been easy, but we're happy people.
Yeah.
And so how do you deal with that image of Uganda, which is also based on reality, but on the other hand, it's become a stereotype and people confront you with it, and sometimes it's a sign of their misinformation or miseducation. Share some thoughts on that.
I just overshadow it with the good news about our country and the other things that have never been broadcast. I try to teach people about our culture, our music, our people. Yes, there is a lot of truth to what people know, and a lot of controversial angles to it. But I just walk away from it and try to stick to the now and what can move us forward as a country. Yeah.
And you do that by you being an entrepreneur, being a singer.
Exactly.
While you were in the pandemic, not only did you record an album, but when your businesses back home were suffering because of the COVID pandemic, you started a coffee import business in Rotterdam, my hometown.
Yeah.
Without a roof above you. I'm laughing because I'm just trying to, I'm looking at myself like, would I ever be able to get this done? So you went to the cafe car and you were like, yeah, mag ik eventjes...
I actually did. And they asked me for a business...
That's the Chamber of Commerce for our English listeners.
Yeah, they asked me for a business plan and they read it. They're like, this is pretty good. They're like, okay, explain this. I said, I had restaurants back home in Uganda, so I was doing business and blah, blah, blah. And they were like, oh, wow. So it went pretty well. And I started working on this coffee brand called the Sound Cup, which is named after restaurants that I had back home that I used to use to support the Ugandan music arts. And then we started. So we roast the coffee in Rotterdam and we supply it to Belgium, Germany, and of course within the Netherlands. So when people order, I wanted to give people, like when you order online, you get your coffee in 3 days and it's fresh. So I was like, hey, apart from the fact that I'm struggling, I think having our coffee here doesn't only offer good quality of coffee, but also it's my culture being brought into the Netherlands,
And it's actually, it builds on the co-creation and the connecting of Uganda and the Netherlands, because if there's one place on earth where people drink coffee, it's the Netherlands. And there's a country where people have beautiful coffee beans, which is Uganda.
Yeah.
And it's in that same country where you also work with refugees. You work with refugees,
Yes, I do.
trying to, inspire other immigrants. Do you have any spare time? No, that was a joke.
Nice one.
No, but why is that important for you?
I know what it's like to be stranded. Like I told you, our background. I know what it's like to think there is no hope for you. I know what it's like to need to fit into a system or do something. So I'm very passionate about the refugees and trying to help in any way that they integrate into the communities and be okay, and for them to realize their dreams. So I've been working a lot with UNHCR, Hijra, and going down to refugee settlements such as Nachivale and just helping the youth there discover their talents and actually invest in them and help them find their footing in the country.
Yeah.
Because as a refugee, as you can imagine, it's usually the problem. They're running from something and they need to be okay. And if you find someone's talent, you nurture it, you show them how they can be self-sufficient. And I'm passionate about that. I'm passionate about seeing young people find their way.
It's beautiful. And there's one very interesting thing about Uganda is that we, compared to European countries, we let in a tremendous amount of refugees and really help them. On the other hand, there's a lot of challenges. There's a lot of poverty. The healthcare could do better. Politically, we've been in difficult situations and been going through rough weather and tides. And looking at all of that, how do you look to the future of our country? Like as an example to so many young people.
Uganda's got very intense dynamics. 1 minute it's so up there, next minute we're like, oh, we just took 10 steps backward. But I do believe that the future is indeed within the youth of the country. And the only way that's going to happen is if they have the exposure they need, the education they need, to have the technical know-how, because they're vibrant, they're aggressive, they want to be okay. And the only way that can be the case is if they're given the resources they need. If the young people are given the resources they need, the exposure they need, and the platforms to actually be the future they want.
Be the change they want to see.
Yeah.
And I wanted to know one thing. You told me on a phone call that you actually want to invest in musical education. Could you say something about what your plans are with regards to that? Because you never know who's out there. And in relation to that local language, the Luganda and the traditional music.
So I've been building something with my team, and we're about to launch it. The plan is to see that, especially in the music, that what I had in the schools when I was younger, it doesn't exist no more. There's no more school curriculums for music. It doesn't exist. Only a few. A few schools have it. But I would like to see that these schools have instruments, and there's freedom to actually learn the arts, because I feel like arts have been disregarded in the country as a joke, yet the arts bring in some of the biggest revenue in the country. But arts are not just a way of revenue, but something that can actually save so many young people. For myself, like growing up in the background that I did, I saw so many things that I could have been a part of, and they would have ruined me. They would have destroyed me had I not had music by my side. Had I not had the access to be a singer and write, I would be dead. No joke. So I do know how important this is for artists to have the access to music and arts education. Amen.
Thank you so much for being on this show. And this was, we're on the road. We're on the road.
We're on the road.
We're on the road to Kirya. And this is the stop in the Netherlands, the stop at this show.
Yeah.
But I'd like to thank you for this beautiful record. And may you make many more records with Moya music. So please.
Thank you, Andrew. Thank you for having me.
Take care, brother.
Mwana wange wafuna ennusu omalanga notta, bw'ofuna essimu okubanga n'otugamba